Hey, Change the World entrepreneurs. If you're like me, you've probably been talking about the coronavirus quite a lot the past few weeks. I've spent a lot of time with the two investment companies that we have here at Findaway, going real deep on that. One of our companies actually has a manufacturing plant that's highly reliant on the factory workers, of course, and has shifts involved. And so you can imagine if they get an outbreak in the plant, what that could mean to their business. So we've been doing a lot of contingency planning here lately. So I thought I would come to you guys with some ideas around this. And a good friend of mine, Michael Movitz from the industry, reached out the other day and was asking me via email. He asked the question, what suggestions would you offer to emerging brands planning to raise capital in the coming months? And I thought it was a really great question because as an investor, we are looking to put some money into great young companies, great young change the world companies. And so I thought if I were an entrepreneur, what would I be thinking about doing right now? So let me start off by kind of outlining where an investor like me, where our head might be right now. Well, given the major market situation and the diving numbers on the stock market, I would think that the first word that comes to mind for me as an investor is cautious. So probably overly cautious and likely to wait a little bit or take more time to be even more critical with the investments that we're making. So right now, the way we're thinking about it at Findaway is we kind of have to breathe a little bit here for the next couple of weeks just to understand where things might shake out. I think it could be really, really bad or catastrophic in terms of overwhelming the healthcare system. Or if we flatten the curve, it might just mean a recession. Either way, caution and patience right now, I think, is going to be what's top of mind for me as an investor and likely for a lot of other investors. However, I would make the point that most investors out there still have money on the sidelines and they still have to make those investments. You know, their investors, especially if it's venture capital or private equity, will probably be looking to those parts of their portfolio to provide even more value for them long term, especially if the recession lasts for a while, which I think all indications are that it might. So I'm helping a very large private equity fund right now do some diligence. And I've asked them about this, and they've expressed that they still have to get their money in the market. And right now it's a very competitive situation with lots of money in venture capital and private equity, which means ultimately they're going to have to make the investment. So there's that on the good side. And on the not so good side, maybe it might take a little longer and they might do a little more diligence, or at least in the short term here, for me, it's the next probably 2 to 8 weeks. Might be a little more patient with our capital. So that's the investor side. Now, if I'm an entrepreneur, what might you consider doing? So I kind of boiled it down to 5, 6 things. So let me just run through those real quick. Number one, if you already have investors in particular, or if you don't and you're just wondering what to do, the first thing I would recommend is that you show you're taking this very seriously. You're showing it to all your stakeholders. If you've got investors, your investors want to know that you're taking it seriously and doing everything you can. And also, if you've got employees, they want to know that you're taking it seriously. So I've posted some other articles on how to handle that internally. But some of the things that come to mind for me is plan for the worst while you're praying for the best or hoping for the best. Planning for the worst for me means what if you went to, especially for smaller companies, the companies we work with are under $3 million in sales, but even if you're under $10 million in sales, let's just say what if your revenue went to zero for the next 90 days or got cut in half for the next 90 days, depending on where you are? What's the worst case scenario for you? And what's the minimum you would have to do to keep the business afloat, especially as it relates to cash flow? So conserving cash as much as possible is where my head is at right now with our investments. And I think you should consider that as well, especially if you do some scenario planning around the worst case scenario. So for example, if you want to conserve cash, consider those hires that you were going to be making over the next 3 to 4 months and maybe just put hiring on hold. Do you really need to make those hires right now is one way to think about it. Are there major product launches you can wait on? So they tend to require a lot of money, especially for smaller companies. If you're doing some new MOQs, MOQs typically mean a slug of capital, packaging, the marketing materials related to that. It could be hundreds of thousands of dollars, even for a small company to launch a new product. And you might consider delaying that for a month or two to see what's happening and to conserve cash. So those are 2 quick ideas. And then on the supply chain side, show you're taking it seriously. Where my head's at on that is maybe buying up about 3 months if you can. What I've heard out there is that the supply chain is getting really hard to manage and that there's everybody's trying to buy 3 months. So do what you can to work with your supply chain to buy a little extra, 2 months, 3 months at the maximum, depending on your sector and expirations and things like that. So that's number one, show you're taking it seriously. Number two, double down on focus. With the companies I'm working with, we have a thing called a wildly important goal that comes from the 4 disciplines of execution. So really hone in on what your wildly important goal is here in the next 3 to 6 months. What is that? And the wildly important goal basically is the one thing that if you do, all will go well. It's the one thing that your company's survival maybe even hinges on. And so I would double down on focus as number two. Number three, over communicate. I like video because it can show some emotion. So if you're a CEO or a founder, do a video to your key stakeholders, investors, employees. Make sure they understand that you're serious and that you're over communicating all the different aspects of where you're at. Keep it short, crisp, sincere, transparent, especially transparent if you're working on things. My friend was in a meeting where, a staff meeting where the boss had to basically say, look, we're evaluating layoffs and we're evaluating furloughs, meaning, putting people, not paying people, but keeping them on on health insurance for 90 days or so. And they were very honest with that. And my friend really appreciated that. So keep it crisp, sincere, transparent, over communicate is number three. Number four, considering offering easy ways for your consumers to support you. The brands that we work with are Change the World brands that have a lot of loyalty from their consumers. So with, great time to offer gift cards, auto ship, just explaining where you're at as a company. And if you've got a loyal fan base, giving them every opportunity, even with some discounts, to support you with gift cards or buying gifts for others, or even auto ship. A great time to do auto ship just to make sure they understand that you're doing everything you can to be able to be there for them as this crisis moves through. So that's number four, consider offering easy ways for your consumers to support you. And number five that you might consider doing is take this opportunity where you might have some extra time to nail your strategy. Most of the time I see entrepreneurs really struggle with having a really clear strategy. And we just launched a program around this, a quick plug, 12 weeks to nail your strategy. Starts early April. It's at findawayclub.com. Check it out. We'll go into more detail on that. But now that you've got a little extra time on your hands, it feels like, as things slow down a bit, set aside a couple hours a day, or get your team together a couple hours a week to go deep on your strategy and to follow that process. So you can check out more on findawayclub.com. So last and probably most important is take care of yourself. I'm going to be doing another blog on that, on kind of my daily ritual and routine and some of the things I've learned over the last several years. But if you, as the Change the World leader or founder, don't have enough energy, if you're showing up frazzled or didn't get enough sleep, or haven't been able to get your runs in or go to the gym, figure out a way to keep your energy high. That's highly important, because as the Change the World CEO or founder, everyone's looking to you on how to react. If you're frazzled and tired and stressed, then you can bet your company will be frazzled and tired and stressed. If you're clear, if you've got great energy, if you've got some good energy coming out towards your stakeholders, that'll also trickle through to your community, and you'll see that around you. Okay, so be kind of that lighthouse in the storm, be the strength in the storm. And I've written another blog on that, which we'll put a link to below. All right. So I plan to post more insights and learnings on my Medium site. So medium.com/Robert U. Craven, at Robert U. Craven. So check out my Medium site. We'll put a link to that below as well. All right. Thanks, everyone. Hang in there. And if you've got any questions, please feel free to reach out directly to me. Thanks a lot. Take care.